Oh, so the Oilers think they're so special because they can score 4 goals in 10 minutes. Well, 2 can play at that game. I mean, technically it did take the Kraken a little over 11 minutes, but still. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where, as they say, revenge is a dish best served cold. And as far as the NHL map is concerned, there aren't too many places colder than Edmonton. But before we get to all that, there is something else that happened between the last game and this one that we have yet to talk about, and that is the announcement of Seattle being named as the host city for the Winter Classic in January 1st of 2024. Now, I didn't really think there was enough to say about this at this point to warrant its own video. I mean, you can disagree with me if you want down in the comment section, but it is still a pretty exciting thing and somewhat unexpected just a couple years in for the Kraken, which did rub a number of old head hockey fans the wrong way, and fans of teams that have been waiting longer than, let's say, 2 years for a Winter Classic. But either way, it's an exciting one for the Kraken as they'll end up hosting the other new team in the Golden Knights, which also probably helped that frustration of older fans. And while I will say that I was kind of hoping that it would be Seattle versus Vancouver so that we could get the matchup of the Metropolitans versus the Millionaires, it does still sound like, as a part of some of the rumors we were hearing before the actual official announcement, that not only did Seattle get to host as was rumored, but another thing that's been rumored is that they will be wearing those Metropolitan jerseys, which then leaves the question of what the heck Vegas will decide to wear to match that. But it is still pretty exciting, even if that probably won't be officially announced until, I would imagine, October or November of next year. Now, as far as why it's going to be played in T-Mobile Park rather than, say, Lumen Field or maybe Husky Stadium with the view that that has, well, put simply, it's just weather. T-Mobile Park does have the roof that they can put over the whole thing while they're at least getting it set up. They may actually have the roof open during the game regardless of what the weather is, but there is quite a process to setting up the ice in an outdoor arena in the first place, so being able to cover that if it's raining does make a big difference, even if it's open regardless of weather during the game. Now, hopefully Vegas won't feel too at home in T-Mobile Park as they play in T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, but I'm sure that won't be too much of a problem, and either way, it's going to be a big year for T-Mobile Park with the All-Star Game and then the World Series, which the Mariners are obviously going to win, and then this coming just a few months later. Oh, also real quick, I did want to mention that I will be streaming the next game, or doing a stream along with the next game, so obviously not streaming the game itself. But if you do want to join for that game against the Leafs as the Kraken take on a couple of old faces and their old captain Giordano and Calle Yarncroke, then hopefully you can join for that. But of course, before we get to all of that, there still is more than a half of season left for the Kraken to play this year, and then hopefully some playoffs, which as far as that's concerning, as we get back to this game against the Oilers, as we know, with the two teams coming in tied at 42 points in the standings, even with the Kraken having a few games in hand, this is a pretty important one as we get into this back half of the season. Fortunately, this time the Kraken were able to come through, and come through in pretty convincing fashion at that, winning it 5-2. Of course, even with the same lineup as the last win against the Islanders, it didn't always seem like this game was going to go the way that it ended up going, as in the first period, well, this time the Kraken are able to keep the Oilers off the board for the first 4 minutes, and then actually through the first half of the first period, where at that point, the last time these two teams faced a couple games ago, it was already 4-0 Edmonton. While the score is still 0-0 at this point, it has been pretty much all Oilers as far as chances on goal and offensive zone time are concerned. And all of that pressure does eventually lead to their first power play of the game, just past the halfway point. And when it comes to an Oilers power play that's scoring nearly a third of the time they're out there versus a Kraken penalty kill that, well, came into this game 31st in the league, we saw how that went last time. And sure enough, just a few seconds into this Edmonton power play, just like the two power plays they had in the last game, they're able to score on it as a shot from the blue line is saved relatively easily by Jones, but it rebounds out to the side where Draisaitl fires off either a shot or a pass, I don't really know which. Either way, it turns into a pass as it gets through everybody in front of the net, cleanly to the other side where Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is waiting, and from a sharp angle, he's able to put it into what's basically an empty net, as Jones laid out to try and save what he thought was going to be a shot from Draisaitl. And then, while the Kraken do get through the rest of the first period without letting up another goal, in fact, they almost get one to equalize it themselves as Sprong gets a friendly bounce and a breakaway from center ice. That one saved by Skinner and net less than a minute into the second period. The Kraken get the puck out of the defensive end, but it's intercepted in the neutral zone by Edmonton, and a couple passes later, or more just a pass and then a chip off the sideboards, gets the puck to McDavid right around the center ice line, and from there, it's all the McDavid show as he gets through the entire Kraken defense, which from where he's at is mostly just Soucy, and to be fair to Soucy, even if he hasn't had a great season so far, he probably wouldn't even have been able to keep up with McDavid had he been skating forwards and turned around, but as he's skating backwards, there's certainly no chance, so McDavid goes around Soucy and puts it into the back of the net to give Edmonton the 2-0 lead here early in the second. Again, yes, Soucy absolutely gets walked by McDavid here, but he wasn't the only Kraken player on the ice that would have potentially had a chance to stop McDavid, and after all, he is the best player in the world, so I guess you just gotta give him that one. The good news, at least for the Kraken, though, is that in this game, they were actually willing to put up a fight, unlike in the last one. And it all starts when they get their first power play of the game. Now, the Kraken power play has been struggling of late. In fact, I think the stat was that they were 1 for their last 28 attempts or 22 or something. So even for as much as we've talked about how bad the penalty kill has been, the power play hasn't been much better over the last few weeks. Fortunately, though, while Edmonton might have a power play to match their offensive potential, they also have a penalty kill that matches their defensive potential, or maybe lack thereof. And the Kraken, at least this time, are able to take advantage of it, even if it does come on a somewhat dirty goal, as they say. It comes off a shot from the outside from Sprong that is saved by Skinner, but it bounces up in the air in front of him, where Beniers is standing right there and maybe celebrating that T-Mobile Park will be hosting the Winter Classic, whacks it out of the air like he's a baseball player and into the back of the net to tie, or I guess to bring the Kraken to within 1, giving them their first goal of the game. So with the assist, it's yet another point for Sprong, who continues to remain hot, and for Beniers, well, it's his first point in a few games. It's also his first goal and even longer, getting his 12th of the season, his 26th point, as he still continues to lead rookies, even with a bit of a drought here, and he wouldn't have to wait all that much longer to get his 27th point. As the Kraken, right off the faceoff, get back into the offensive zone, and it doesn't take long for the ref's arm to go up, and the Kraken are going to get another power play just a few seconds after they scored on the last one. But they never actually end up getting there. As the extra guy gets on the ice, Larson keeps the offensive zone just by the blue line, getting the puck down to Beniers. Beniers fires off, not a shot, but a pass to Schwartz, who's waiting by the back door, and a couple handles later, he puts the puck around the post and into the back of the net to tie the game at 2. Which, that's why I almost said it was tied earlier, because it doesn't take the Kraken more than about 30 seconds to go from being down 2 to having the game tied at 2. So not technically a power play goal, but it does come on the delayed penalty, so it feels kind of like a power play goal for the Kraken, with one and then this one in just a few seconds. For Schwartz, it's his 9th on the season. For Beniers, his 27th point, as we already talked about. And for Larson, who gets the secondary assist on this, it extends his point streak to 7 games, which is now tied with Jordan Eberle for the franchise record, and he's a defenseman, so obviously it's the franchise record for a defenseman. Now, unlike what the Oilers were able to do in Seattle in the first period, the Kraken aren't able to get a third goal in just a few seconds here, as play does start to even out for the next few minutes. But eventually, the Kraken back in the offensive zone once again, win a faceoff. It's Yanni Gourde who wins the faceoff. It gets out to Bjorkstrand, who quickly gets it to the other side to Schultz, who's crashing at the net with a wide open shot. He fires it off, but Skinner was able to get across in time to make the save. The rebound, though, off his pad gets out to the other side, where there is a few players there. It's Tolvanen, though, who gets to it first. He gets a pass down to Gourde, or I guess more off of Gourde's shin, and then to Gourde's stick. Gourde whacks at it, and it goes over Skinner's pad and into the back of the net to give the Kraken the lead. And wouldn't you know it, winning faceoffs, regardless of where, but especially in the offensive end, can lead to good things happening for your team. Now, that having been said, it was another not particularly good night in the faceoff circle for the Kraken, as they only end up winning 24-38 1 for the Oilers in this game. But if you're gonna lose more faceoffs than you win, it also helps to learn how to take advantage of those situations. As it's a couple minutes later, once again back in the offensive zone, and actually hit the very same faceoff circle that Gourde was able to win that puck to lead to the third Kraken goal, where the Kraken lose a faceoff, but Schwartz wins the battle to the puck, or wins the race to the puck down by the boards, fires off a tight angle shot at the net that I don't think was actually on it, but either way, Skinner reaches out his glove to catch it, and while he does get the glove on it, it bounces in and out of the glove right out into the front of the net, where Wemberg's standing there, and he quickly kicks the puck from his skate to his stick, whips around 180 and fires off a pass behind him to McCann, who's crashing the net on the other side, and McCann quickly buries it into the back of the net to give the Kraken the 4-2 lead before Skinner can get back to the other side to have any chance to make the save. And with that, the Kraken also chase Skinner from the game, so not only have the Kraken returned the favor of 4 goals in right around 10 minutes. For the Kraken, it takes about 11 and a couple seconds. But they also return the favor of chasing the opposing goaltender. Though, to be fair, the Oilers did do it 4 minutes into the game, and for the Kraken, it took a period and a half. But either way, they chase Skinner, and that does bring in Stuart Campbell, who's had a bit of a rough year for the Oilers. That having been said, he really doesn't get challenged much by the Kraken in this game, as from this point on, where we're with about 5 minutes left in the second period and then the entire third period, the Kraken only get 3 more shots on goal while Skinner's in net. So even with how the second period went and the Kraken now having scored 4 unanswered goals, it wasn't necessarily a 2-goal lead in the third period that really felt safe at any point until maybe the last couple minutes of the game, especially when the Oilers basically start out this third period with another power play. And once again, a few seconds into it, McDavid gets a crossing pass over to Draisaitl, who's all alone on the other side, and he buries the shot to make it 4-3. Or almost makes it 4-3, as it ends up getting challenged by the Kraken for offside, which, has to be said, seemed like a pretty gutsy call, especially considering had this not gone the Kraken way, which was very possible. I mean, sure, it looks clear on camera that it's offside, but we've seen things that look clear not end up getting overturned before, and if the officials were to let this goal stand, the game might as well be tied, because with the Kraken then losing the challenge, the game would still be 4-3 with the good goal, and they would be sending Edmonton back to another power play, and a team that at that point then would have scored on 4 consecutive power plays right around the first 30 seconds of those power plays. Fortunately, the officials make the correct calls, seeing that it's offside, the goal is overturned, and the Kraken miraculously are able to kill off the rest of this power play. And then a few minutes later, it also certainly helps Seattle's efforts in trying to win this game that Gord gets hit high by an Edmonton stick, which ends up drawing blood, and with that it draws 4 minutes of Kraken power play. 4 minutes that obviously they have a chance to score another goal, which would effectively, I think, at that point put the game away. Actually, even 2, because if they score in the first one, they'd still get 2 minutes of power play afterwards. But at the very least, as long as they're careful, they can kill off 4 minutes of clock and valuable time for Edmonton in their attempt to try to get back into the game. And ultimately, that's all Seattle really ends up getting out of it, as they only manage 1 shot on goal on this rather lackluster power play that kind of just seems like the third period as a whole for Seattle. And that 1 shot came, I think, 7 seconds into the power play. The good news is that they also don't allow any shorthanded chances, and they do waste those 4 minutes again of very valuable time for Edmonton, still down by 2. Eventually, Seattle does get 1 more good scoring chance before the goaltender gets pulled anyway, as Gord in the offensive end gets a pass out to Bjorkstrand that springs him loose for a wide open chance on Campbell. Campbell makes the first save. Bjorkstrand is able to get the rebound and get another shot off, though it isn't a particularly good one, and while it does get past Campbell, just before it's going to get to the goal line, it's pulled off the goal line by one of the Oilers players. And so eventually we do get to, it was I think 3 minutes and 40 seconds left, when eventually Edmonton pulls the goaltender to try to get back in the game, still down 2. And a little while later, Wemberg ends up finding the back of the net off of a still pretty nice pass from Tanev. And that makes it 5-2 Kraken, and that's where the game would end. Although the Oilers do get a power play with the last minute and a half of the game, the Kraken are able to kill that off, which again kind of seems like a bit of a minor miracle, though at that point they're still down 3, so it may not have mattered anyway. All in all then, another pretty well and fairly complete game played by the Kraken, and absolutely another very big win. Again, especially with this one coming against a division opponent who's right around the same place the Kraken are in the standings. Now, yeah, the first period they could have gotten off to a bit of a better start, but at least they were able to sustain the Edmonton pressure in that first period and only allowed the 1 goal that came on a power play, which, even with how the Kraken penalty kill is doing, is the best power play unit in the league that they were against. And then while they do allow McDavid to do McDavid things right at the start of the second to make it 2-0, this time they don't just fold under the pressure, and especially with how the game before had gone 7-2 in that one and then allowing the first 2 goals in this one, you could have seen where this one could have just gotten out of hand for the Oilers. Instead, this time the Kraken, I think especially wanting to make a statement after how that game went in Seattle, bounce right back and have a second period that made all the difference with those 4 goals in 11 minutes. And then while the third period, maybe they could have done a little bit more offensively and tried to keep that foot down and try to pull a little bit farther away from a high-scoring Oilers team, they were at least able to, even with 4 shots on goal, prevent the Oilers from getting too many high-danger chances themselves and close this one out with also the added empty netter. With, again, maybe the one caveat to this being a good game for the Kraken, that the face-off circle continues to be a problem and really has been for the vast majority of the season, and really was in the third period, where the Oilers won the first 12 or 13 face-offs of the third period. Fortunately, the Kraken seem to be figuring out how to play around losing every face-off, but you'd like to see that get turned around somehow. As for Kraken stars in this game, then, I'm not going to disagree too much with at least the first two official stars of this game. Jaden Schwartz absolutely gets the first star, a goal and 2 assists in this one, and was very prevalent in the offensive end throughout the game for the Kraken, and had a couple of pretty good defensive plays. The second star, Matty Beniers with the goal and an assist, a point on both of those first 2 goals for the Kraken that got the game tied quickly with the 30 seconds between them. And then the third star, well, I do think that Yanni Gourde is very well deserving of mention and gets the official third star in this game. And I almost also gave it to Wennberg, who also had a fantastic game in this one. The really nice pass to McCann to get the 4th goal, and then obviously getting the empty netter, so 2 points for him as well. But I'm going to give it to Martin Jones, who has a fantastic night in goal for the Kraken, stopping 30 of 32 shots for the Oilers for a save percentage of .938, and anytime the Kraken can get a save percentage that far above 900, well, at this point, we'll happily take it. Now, it's certainly worth mentioning that the defense in front of Jones has been fantastic in these last 2 games, which has really been a big part of the difference between these last 2 games and, well, especially the Edmonton game, but really the 3 games before that. Still, Jones was able to make almost every stop he needed to, and I mean, the one, especially the power play goal, there's not much he can do there. And then the second one, it's Connor McDavid, so it is what it is. As always, though, please let me know what you think down in the comment section, who your 3 stars of this game would be, and how excited you are for that Winter Classic just under a year from now. Until, not then, but until the next game, where the Kraken go to Toronto to face their old captain Mark Giordano, as well as Calle Jarnkrok, who I think is still healthy there. He's had some issues with injury this season, but a couple old Kraken players. Again, a game I will be streaming for, so hopefully you can join for that. It is a game that starts at 4 Pacific time, so we'll be on a little bit earlier than that. If you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. Until that game, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!